Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. One of my favorite hymns didn't make the cut. When our new hymnal came out in 2005, they included some new hymns and tried to include the old ones everyone knew and loved as well. Unfortunately, that means that some hymns that weren't being widely used across the whole church needed to be left out, and one of my favorites was one of those. You have to go to the Green Lutheran Book of Worship to find it. It was called One There Is Above All Others. The first verse begins this way. One there is above all others well deserves the name of friend. His is love beyond a brother's, costly, free, and knows no end. I love that line about Christ being our friend and loving us with a love closer than family. Last week and this week we're looking at examples of friendship in the Bible. Last week we dealt with 5 special friendships that King David had, and this week we are broadening our consideration to other friendships the Bible portrays. Today we want to look at a special friendship between 2 people who also happened to be family. Abraham and Lot. We often marvel about God's call to Abraham, and then we marvel even more that Abraham listened to this unseen God calling him to an unknown place, and then that Abraham actually followed the call. He packed up his family, his herds and flocks, and everything he owned, and headed out on foot, walking until God told him to stop. It's a stunning act of faith. And yet what we often don't pay attention to is that Lot went with him. Now, I do think that our inattention to Lot is fair. He's something of a minor character in the story of God and God's people. The main thread goes through Abraham. However, Lot accompanies him. Lot was Abraham's nephew, but just because they were relatives doesn't exclude them being friends too. And the story goes that when they got to Canaan and God told them that this was the place, at first they tried to settle next to each other. But God had blessed them both so much, and their flocks and herds had grown so large that it was a struggle for them to find pasture enough to share. Their herdsmen were bickering with each other. Abraham didn't want their relationship to be broken, so he took Lot to a place that overlooked the whole land and told Lot to choose his portion. Lot chose the best lands for himself, and Abraham let him have them. That's a pretty powerful mark of friendship right there, to offer to his friend the best and to receive the lesser without complaint. But there's more. Later on, when Lot and all his family and goods were taken captive, Abraham raised an army and went to war and freed Lot and his family and returned to him all his goods and possessions. That's another key mark of friendship, loyalty. Abraham put himself and all that he had at risk because of his loyalty to his friend and nephew. Which puts me in mind of that hymn again. I gave you most of the first verse as we began today, but let's go on to verses 2 and 3 as the kind of friend Jesus is spelled out, and we learn about Christ's abundant loyalty to us. Which of all our friends to save us could or would have shed his blood? But the Savior died to have us reconciled to him, to God. This was boundless love indeed. Jesus is the friend we need. When he lived on earth, they scorned him. Friend of sinners was his name. Though the angels have adored him, still he answers to that claim. Still he calls them dearest friends, and to all their needs attends. It's one of my favorite hymns, but it didn't make the cut. So often neither do we. Thanks be to God that we have a friend like this in Jesus. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.